No one saw this moment on live television coming. Ibrahim Traoré confronted Oprah Winfrey with a striking truth that caught her completely off guard. Her emotional and sincere response moved not only the live audience, but viewers around the world. This unexpected exchange is now being called one of the most impactful interviews of the year. It all began with a quiet phone call on a rainy Monday afternoon. Ibrahim Traoré, interim president of Burkina Faso, was finishing up his day when his assistant entered with a message. "Mr. President," she said gently, "Oprah Winfrey's team is on the line. They're inviting you to appear on her show." He paused, taken aback. Of course he knew who Oprah was, who didn't, but he wasn't drawn to media appearances. "Why me?" he asked. "They've been following your leadership," she replied, "and they want to explore the person behind the role." After a thoughtful silence, he finally said, "Tell them I'll come." What no one anticipated, not Oprah, not Ibrahim, not the millions watching, was that this conversation would become one of the most emotional moments in television history. By Wednesday evening, Ibrahim was in Chicago, waiting in the green room of Oprah's studio. The lights outside were intense, and the audience buzzed with anticipation. Oprah entered backstage, her signature warm smile lighting up the room. "Mr. Traoré," she greeted, extending her hand. "I've been looking forward to this." He stood to meet her, returning the gesture with a firm yet respectful grip. "And you," he responded. But behind the smiles was a quiet tension. Oprah was known for cutting through appearances with pointed questions. Ibrahim, though calm and composed, never shied away from hard truths. As the cameras began rolling and they stepped onto the stage, both hosts wore courteous smiles, masks for the deeper emotions stirring beneath the surface. No one in the audience could have predicted how quickly those smiles would vanish, or the tears that would follow. Oprah started gently, asking about his upbringing, his path to leadership, and his vision for Burkina Faso. Ibrahim responded with humility, speaking clearly and thoughtfully, but then Oprah leaned in, her gaze firm but compassionate. "Mr. Traoré," she said, "you speak often about hope, but isn't it true that your country remains one of the poorest in the world? That people are still suffering? How do you explain that under your leadership?" A quiet gasp swept through the room. The atmosphere grew heavy. Ibrahim didn't blink. He met her gaze directly, eyes calm and unwavering. And then, in a low, even voice, he said something no one had expected. "You know," he began, "poverty isn't always what people think it is. Maybe it's time someone told you the truth." Oprah inhaled sharply. The room went silent. For perhaps the first time in her long career, Oprah looked uncertain. What he said next would move her and the world to tears. The audience sat still, barely breathing. Oprah stared at Ibrahim, visibly affected by the weight in his tone. She spoke again, this time more firmly. "Then tell me, Mr. Traoré, if poverty isn't what we think, what is it?" Ibrahim leaned back, folded his hands and took a deep breath. "Poverty," he began softly, "isn't just a lack of money or things. It's the absence of dignity. It's when a mother feels invisible as her children go hungry. When a farmer prays for rain that never arrives. When a child gives up dreaming because no one ever told him he mattered." Oprah's lips parted slightly, visibly moved by how his words seemed to cut through the lights, the cameras, and into her own heart. "You see," he continued, voice steady, "what truly wounds people isn't empty pockets. It's the feeling that the world has decided they are worth nothing." Oprah's eyes blinked rapidly, as if she was holding back an emotion she hadn't expected. The audience shifted uneasily in their seats. The silence in the studio stretched longer than any producer would prefer, but no one dared to interrupt it. Oprah looked down briefly, then back up, her eyes glistening under the lights. She opened her mouth to speak, but her voice faltered. She began, then paused. Ibrahim didn't rush her. He simply watched with calm patience and quiet understanding. Eventually, Oprah found her voice. "I've interviewed presidents, kings, billionaires," she said softly. "But no one has ever said it quite like that, and no one has ever made me feel it that deeply." A quiet gasp passed through the crowd. Oprah's hand moved to her chest as a tear traced down her cheek. "I've spent my life telling stories," she whispered, "but maybe tonight I'm hearing one I never truly understood." Ibrahim reached for the glass of water in front of him, took a slow sip, and then met her eyes. He spoke gently. "It's never too late to see people again." Oprah bowed her head and something shifted in the room. A sniffle broke the silence. From the front row, a woman dabbed at her eyes, followed by another. In the back, a man let out a quiet sob. Ibrahim's words, combined with Oprah's visible emotion, had touched something raw in everyone present. Even the seasoned camera crew found themselves blinking away tears. Oprah finally raised her head. Her eyes were red, but a soft, almost innocent smile had returned. "You have a gift," she said, her voice thick with feeling. "You remind us of what it means to be human." Ibrahim shook his head slightly. "No," he replied. "I just help people remember what they already know, but forgot how to say." At that, a wave of applause began. Hesitant at first, then building into a standing ovation. Oprah stood too, wiping her cheeks, and embraced him. For the first time in years, she didn't think about the cameras, the ratings, or what came next. As the applause echoed through the studio, millions watching at home felt something stir inside them, something long forgotten. Hope. As the cameras kept rolling, Oprah slowly regained her composure, though her voice still carried a slight tremor. She leaned in and asked softly, "If you could change just one thing about the world today, what would it be?" Ibrahim looked down at his hands for a long moment. The room held its breath. When he looked up, his eyes were filled with a quiet heaviness. "I would erase the belief that some lives matter less than others." The studio went completely silent. "You see," he continued, "we've created systems that measure human value by wealth, by skin color, by nationality. But a mother crying over her starving baby in Burkina Faso sheds the same tears as one here, yet the world looks away from her pain, as if she was born to suffer." Oprah swallowed hard, her eyes shining again. Ibrahim leaned forward just slightly and said, "That's the deepest violence of all, to make someone believe they are invisible." The studio lights seemed cooler after that. The energy in the room had completely changed. What began as an ordinary interview had turned into something far deeper. People were now sitting forward, tissues in hand, many staring at Ibrahim in silence. One woman wept openly. Another whispered under her breath, "He's right! My God, he's right!" Oprah leaned back, then addressed the camera directly. "I think everyone watching at home can feel what we're feeling in this room," she said quietly. Ibrahim gave a small, solemn smile. "Because deep down," he said, "we all know the truth. We've just forgotten how to feel it." He then shared a story about a child he met just before leaving for America. A boy who held onto his leg and begged, not for money, but for his voice to be heard. "Said to me," Ibrahim recalled, "Please, when you leave here, don't forget us." At those words, several audience members broke down completely. Oprah placed a hand over her heart. "Ibrahim," she began, but emotion stopped her. Even before the broadcast ended, clips of the conversation had started to go viral. On Twitter, the hashtag #Don'tForgetUs was trending within minutes. Viewers around the world began sharing their own stories of being overlooked, unheard, unseen. On YouTube, live comments streamed faster than anyone could follow. Most said things like, "I'm crying, thank you for saying this, and why does this hurt so much because it's true?" Back in the studio, Oprah rose from her seat and reached for Ibrahim's hand. "I don't know what to say," she admitted, her voice breaking. "But I promise, I won't forget." Ibrahim stood beside her, and for the first time that evening, he smiled gently. "That," he said, "is all I could ever hope for." Embraced briefly. In a far corner, a producer who had never cried at work quietly wiped his eyes. Because in that single moment, everyone in the room remembered what it meant to feel human again. As the show went to a commercial break, silence filled the studio. Oprah sat still, her usual calm replaced with something raw. Ibrahim leaned forward, hands resting softly. "You look like you're carrying the weight of the world," he said in a near whisper. Oprah blinked. "I'm supposed to," she replied, attempting a faint smile. Ibrahim tilted his head slightly, his eyes steady and kind. "But you weren't meant to carry it all. You deserve to be seen too." The words landed deeply. For the first time in years, she couldn't hold back her tears. The producer counted down to go live again, but the moment still lingered, fragile like glass on the verge of breaking. Oprah wiped her face and asked quietly, "How do you keep your heart open?" Ibrahim's reply was simple and would go on to become the most shared quote of the night. "You can't change what you won't let yourself feel." When the cameras returned, millions saw a side of Oprah, and perhaps themselves, that had never been revealed. Oprah gathered herself and asked, "Where does this wisdom come from? Have you always been this way?" Ibrahim leaned back, eyes soft. "I wasn't born wise," he said. "I was born in the dust." He shared memories of his mother, who raised him in a small hut with a leaking roof and empty cupboards. At night, she would whisper, "We may have nothing in our hands, but don't let your heart go empty." He recalled one morning at age 5, waking to see her boiling stones just to quiet the sounds of his hunger. "I asked her why she didn't cry," he said, his voice faltering. "And she told me, if I cry, who will teach you to hope?" The studio fell completely still. Some in the audience openly wept. Oprah covered her mouth, visibly shaken. Ibrahim added quietly, "Pain can make you bitter, or it can make you better. You have to choose." The audience was too moved to even applaud. Outside, the world was watching live. Clips spread online before the show even ended. Hashtags like "Better Not Bitter" and "Don't Forget Us" began trending globally. One viewer posted, "I've never cried watching an interview before. This man speaks for all of us who felt unseen." Ibrahim Traoré changed my life with one sentence. May he be blessed. Back in the studio, Oprah's eyes sparkled as she said, "You've given a gift tonight, Ibrahim, to all of us." He shook his head. "The gift," he said, "is that you listened." Then, reaching into his jacket, he pulled out a folded photo, his mother holding him as a child. He gently placed it on the table in front of Oprah. "She'd want me to remind you," he said, "that no matter how much you carry, you are not alone." Oprah held the photo carefully. Tears streamed freely now. The audience rose in a long-standing ovation, the longest of the night. As the applause faded, Oprah reached beneath her chair, her hands trembling. "I wasn't planning to share this," she said softly, barely audible. Ibrahim watched quietly as she unfolded a single worn piece of paper. "It's a letter," she explained, already in tears, "from a young girl in Chicago's South Side. She wrote to me years ago saying she wanted to give up because she believed no one cared if she lived." Oprah took a breath and held up the letter. "Tonight, Ibrahim, you said everything I wish I had said to her." Ibrahim gently took the letter, read it in silence, then looked up. "She's still here," he said calmly. Oprah gasped, covering her mouth. "Yes," he continued, "because when even one soul dares to truly see her, she finds the strength to stay." The room remained silent, thick with emotion, and in that moment something in the studio and in every heart watching quietly changed. A staff member discreetly handed Oprah a note. It read, "The young woman had tweeted, 'I just watched this, and I'm still here. Thank you.'" The broadcast had been scheduled to end 5 minutes earlier, but no one dared to stop it. The cameras continued rolling as Oprah leaned in to quietly speak to her producer. Then a phone rang on the desk. Oprah picked it up and put it on speaker. A quiet, nervous voice came through. "Miss Winfrey, is this really live?" Oprah gave Ibrahim a glance, then replied gently, "Yes, sweetheart, you're live." The young woman broke down. I saw you and him, and I just wanted to say thank you. I thought no one saw me." Ibrahim's eyes shone, but his voice remained steady. "You are seen," he said clearly, "and you matter more than you know." Even the camera crew wiped their eyes as the girl whispered, "You saved me." At that, Oprah broke down, covering her face as the girl ended the call. Ibrahim stood beside her, resting a hand gently on her shoulder. "You've been saving lives all along," he said quietly. "Tonight just reminded you of that." The studio responded with a soft, heartfelt applause. Some stood again. Through her tears, Oprah looked at Ibrahim and smiled. "You have the heart of a lion," she said, barely above a whisper. The interview came to a close, but no one rushed to leave. People sat still, moved by what they had witnessed. As Oprah stood to hug him goodbye, she said, her voice low, "I thought I came here to interview you, but in 1 hour you've taught me more than I've learned in years." Ibrahim gave a gentle smile. "Pain teaches faster than privilege ever could," he said, "but it's the heart that chooses what to do with it." By then, Twitter was flooded with millions of posts. The hashtags Lionheart and I Am Seen climbed to the top. One viewer wrote, "If every leader in the world spoke like Ibrahim Traoré, maybe we'd all remember we're human first." Another said, "I've never cried this hard watching TV. Bless this man, and bless Oprah for giving him the space." Before leaving the studio, Ibrahim turned once more to face the cameras. His voice was steady, each word deliberate. "See those who are invisible. Hear those without a voice. Stand for the ones the world forgets. That's where our humanity begins." The screen faded to black, but the ripple was only beginning. The cameras stopped, but the studio stayed quiet. Oprah remained seated, staring into the distance, as staff quietly began packing up. Ibrahim stood at the edge of the set, hands folded, silent since his final words on air. At last, Oprah stood and walked toward him. Her makeup had been smudged by tears, and she no longer tried to conceal it. "Why did you really come here tonight?" she asked. Ibrahim smiled faintly, his eyes calm and full of humility. "To remind people," he replied, "that being seen is the greatest gift one person can give another." "You see millions, Oprah, but who sees you?" Her lips quivered. He added, "Even those who seem the strongest are still fighting to be heard. You taught the world how to listen, now let them hear you too." Oprah stood in silence for a while. Then, softly, she said, "Thank you for seeing me tonight." They embraced. No cameras caught it, but millions felt it. The next morning, streets across the globe buzzed, not with politics, but with a renewed sense of humanity. Clips of Ibrahim's quiet, powerful words filled social media feeds and smartphones. Cafes played the interview on repeat, and even classrooms explored the idea of what it means to truly see the unseen. In Burkina Faso, thousands gathered in Ouagadougou, holding signs that read, "We are seen," and "Better, not bitter." Children wore homemade shirts printed with Ibrahim's face. Mothers wept in the streets, saying they had never felt such pride in their leader. Meanwhile, in Chicago, a group of high school students painted a mural of Oprah holding a photo of Ibrahim's mother. Beneath it, they wrote, "Hope is a choice." At home, Oprah sat quietly in her living room, watching the interview replay over and over. Every time she heard him say, "See the invisible, hear the voiceless," a wave of emotion washed over her. She sent him a private message. "You've changed more lives in 1 hour than many of us do in a lifetime. You changed mine." Back in Ouagadougou, Ibrahim read her message and smiled. By week's end, the interview had been viewed by over 120 million people. News outlets called it the most powerful moment of the year. But for Ibrahim, it wasn't about attention, it was about connection. That Friday afternoon, he stood near a small village school, watching children play soccer barefoot in the dust. A little girl ran up to him timidly. "Sir," she asked in a soft voice, "why did you make Oprah cry?" He knelt beside her, smiling gently. "Because," he said, "sometimes tears are how hope finds its way back to the heart." She smiled brightly and ran off to join her friends. Ibrahim remained there, quietly gazing up at the sky, feeling a calm sense of peace. That night, Oprah closed her show with a final reflection. "We all carry invisible struggles, but once in a while someone reminds us we are still human and still worthy of love. Thank you, Ibrahim, for reminding me." Viewers around the world were deeply moved. Many wept as they watched, feeling uplifted, feeling acknowledged. Dear viewer, if this story touched even a small part of your heart, don't leave without letting us know. Please like the video, subscribe for more meaningful stories, and share your thoughts in the comments below by writing, "I am seen." Let's continue this ripple together.